just about ready for our first panel of the day, and it has to do with fan engagement. See what I've done there? Now, even us at World Football Summit, we want fan engagement, and all of you, right? I mean, everybody wants fan engagement, don't they? Now, fortunately, all of you have been able to come here today, but there'll be many people across the globe who would have loved to be here, but for various reasons weren't able to make it. Now, the same is true when it comes to football clubs. There'll be many, many football fans the world over who would love to go to a football match, but can't always be there. So, just how do you engage with the 99% of those sports fans who are not able to go to a football match, who can't be there? Well, how do you grow and monetize both domestic and international fan bases? Well, these are some of the questions that in our next panel they'll be looking to answer, titled Fan Engagements and Evolving Paradigms, Charting the Future of the Game in Partnership with Jugo. So please allow me to welcome onto the stage now our first panel of the day, Tim Jager, CEO, Eintracht Tech at Eintracht Frankfurt, Ollie Dale, Commercial Director at Arsenal FC, Nadia Ben Mokhtar, Head of Brand Development at Paris Saint-Germain, and last but not least, our moderator for this one, Richard Stirk, SVP Strategic Partnerships at Jugo. So nice round of applause then. Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Thank you, and good morning, everybody. It's a real honor for us to be here at the World Football Summit this morning, and I can't wait to get started on what promises to be a fantastic panel. So we've had some introductions, but we've got some of the greatest minds in sports business joining myself this morning to really talk about the importance of international fan growth and how these teams are not only engaging and growing, but also monetizing their international fan base. And so we'll be starting with Ollie. I'll take a seat. Really on the importance of international fan growth. And obviously Arsenal are leveraging some pretty next-gen tech to engage with your international supporters, to deliver world-class supporter engagement. And we will then be moving on to speak with Tim, who has a pretty unique story to tell in terms of creating all of the in-house tech for Eintracht Frankfurt, and about how you're gaining competitive advantage from using the power of data to unlock new fan engagement. And then finally with Nadia, we'll be sharing some fantastic stories. Nadia leads brand, an international brand for PSG, so talking about how they are building a world-class brand in the experience economy. So with that, we'll get started with you, Ollie, if we may.
Lovely.
So Arsenal have, I think I'm right in saying, over 289 international supporter groups.
Yeah.
Around 600 million now estimated global fans, which makes you one of the top 10 best supported teams globally right now. So clearly, international fan base is a really important thing for you guys. Are you able to share a little bit more with the crowd in terms of the local to global strategy for Arsenal?
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, everyone. Pleasure to be here in Seville. I mean, Richard, let's go sort of right back to the start in the sense that during the Premier League era, Arsenal and all of the top Premier League clubs have enjoyed this incredible transformation in terms of fandom around the world, and that is something that has sort of transformed our businesses and transformed how we look at the world. That's also happened relatively quickly. It's been a process that has also coincided with the change in the whole technology landscape. So that's happened through an era whereby broadcast has enabled us to reach audiences in ways that we couldn't previously, and then social media and all of the digital channels that we all play such a massive part in our lives have managed to create that level of opportunity for supporters of Arsenal around the world to be able to engage with the club. And with that in mind, you would say, well, could we have done a better job quicker of providing the level of fan engagement that would be optimal for a club like Arsenal around the world? And that leads you into some of the things that have been actually quite difficult for clubs to navigate. So first and foremost, we're relatively big, famous organizations around the world, but we're relatively small businesses. And so we simply don't necessarily have the resources, or we haven't had the resources and the capabilities that the really big tech companies have had over, the last decade, 15 years in particular, to be able to, really provide the products and services that we wish to provide. And also during that period of time, there's been an ongoing, I guess, dilemma for clubs as it relates to, what does one do oneself on one's owned and operated channels, and also what content do we share, and what opportunities do we provide for our supporters on the big digital social motorways that, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, etc. So that's something that certainly we've been grappling with at Arsenal, and other clubs have been grappling with as well, in terms of what that means. But coming forward to sort of today at Arsenal, we're right in the middle of a very fundamental project to transform our fan engagement platforms for the future. And that comes under the mantra of trying to give supporters, frankly, what they want, where they want, and when they want. And that is something that is really, sounds very simple to say, is extremely hard to accomplish. So, I'm fascinated to hear about Tim's experience on this front, given that Frankfurt have done such a wonderful job in this area. But to be able to create those platforms that are really engaging for supporters, that enable them to be able to enjoy the Arsenal that they want to be able to enjoy on a day-to-day basis, and make us very much part of their integrated day-to-day digital experience. That's something that's really important for us to achieve, and we've got a very clear plan of how we're going to achieve that. In terms of international audiences, that's something whereby technologies like Jugo is incredibly helpful for us in terms of being able to give fans around the world an experience which, they wouldn't necessarily have been able to enjoy in the past. And, certainly when we toured America this year, by way of example, we were able to put on supporter forums whereby our supporters could get together with the likes of Ray Parler and Loren and enjoy an incredible virtual digital experience, which brought them very close to the club and very close to their idols in a way that, frankly, we wouldn't have been able to do before technologies like Jugo came along. So we find ourselves in a position whereby we're trying to create the right environments and the right product to be able to engage fans in a way that they want to enjoy Arsenal. The dilemma is obviously quite often between how one services a fan that is very much based around our community in London and Islington. And, again, that's something that the guys at Frankfurt have done so incredibly well, but also make that relevant to the wider fans of Arsenal all around the world. And, going back in the day, quite a lot of work was done by major clubs in terms of providing, say, local language or local social media channels, etc., for different countries around the world. And the feedback that we had at Arsenal, and our research told us, was that that's not what Arsenal fans really wanted. What they wanted was to feel like they were just as important a fan and receiving the same content that fans that, frankly, live around the corner from the stadium would experience. So, there is no sort of silver bullet that is going to enable us to get to a place whereby we have all of the answers in this space. What has proved all the ways through the course of time that our sponsors are in particular interested at the scale of Arsenal at the very top of our funnel, and the level of engagement that we have, both our TV audiences, 100 million plus social following, and their ability to be engaged there. But the real value that we are trying to bring in this next phase of work in our fan engagement is to really address the supporters that exist at closer to the bottom of what one would describe as a marketing funnel, so that we're providing a much better service and a much more personalized service to supporters that really want to engage with the club on a day-to-day basis. And that's something that we're really working hard to achieve right now.
Fantastic. And I mean, a lot to cover there, but you mentioned some of the work that we were doing. I think we've got a brief video I can play in a moment around the recent pre-season tour with Arsenal. You mentioned we had Ray Parler and Lorraine within the Jugo platform, and I'll share a bit more as we're talking, who were fantastic, by the way, and really engaged with the fans. But that leads me on to my next question, really. Obviously, the US is a big focus for you guys, but I'll play the quick video, but it'd be then good to hear from you in terms of how you're choosing your regions to target and why. Let me just see if we can bring this up quickly, if my clicker is working. So, yeah.
Did you actually think we might actually do this? We may actually go invincible?
That was an amazing moment for my career.
We've got a fantastic squad, very young, with a lot of quality, and I'll tell you something, I can see those players, they'll be up there challenging everyone.
You always got to believe in yourself. I always say to children, always go out and believe you're going to be a good player. You've got to practice, you've got to be dedicated, you've got to do the training, all that sort of stuff.
And Lauren, I can't thank you enough for taking this time to hang out with us today.
I'd love to speak to you guys anyway. That's the beauty of these sort of things, that you can speak all around the world.
Good, I appreciate everybody joining us. This was amazing. It was really nice to be able to do it with so many other people and, you know, not just the two of us.
I am excited for the season. Thank you so much.
Just to provide a bit of context, we had, I think it was Tiff Campo, your head of US supporter groups, reach out to her connections within the US and had, I think, 2 or 3 really fantastic digital events where we brought in that audience, shared the engagement with the fans about what it meant for you guys to be on tour, and it also coincided with the fantastic Forever Islington kit launch as well, which you'll have seen from the visuals. So I guess the first question is, the US is a primary focus for you, but where else are you looking to grow and why? Yeah,
I mean, the US is an incredible marketplace for us. We have twice the number of supporters in the US than we have in the UK, which is a number that we've all been struggling to get our heads around, but that's the case. We're seeing incredible shift increase in merchandise sales from the US marketplace as well. So that's growing exponentially. It's an incredibly important market for us. It's an incredibly important market for our partners. And it's one where I think we all know that the future of, from a Premier League standpoint, from a broadcast standpoint, the US is going to be a very fundamental marketplace for the Premier League and for Arsenal going forward. That technology does the perfect role of enabling us to get to a place whereby our supporters, our supporter groups in the US can really feel like they're part of the club when we're on tour. Even when we go to the US and we're playing in New York or LA, if you live in Chicago, that's not ideal for you. So if you have the opportunity to play your part in the tour by being involved in that type of virtual experience, then that is something which is really a huge value add and provides that sense of togetherness around the community of supporters that we're looking to encourage. So in terms of other regions around the world, I mean, the beauty for us as one of the top Premier League clubs is that there is amazing audiences everywhere, but in particular for Arsenal in Africa, and we have a very deep relationship with Visit Rwanda, who are also a partner of PSG, and that is an incredibly important market for us for the future. We have amazing fandom across Asia, and in particular Southeast Asia, where there is a real hotbed of Premier League support, which has been there for a very long time. We're beneficiaries of an incredible amount of passionate fans there. And then pretty much everywhere else around the world is in equal next place. So we're very blessed in that regard to be able to have that level of international support. but it doesn't come without its challenges in relation to how we engage with those fans and how we give them the opportunity to really feel like they're part of the club. And that's something that only technology can provide the solution to that. And that's why, you know, this type of relationship is so fundamental for us in terms of changing the way we're able to have those relationships in the future.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we hear that a lot. And Nadia, we ran some great events for you in Japan recently as well, with that international audience. But I think there's a growing sense of fans wanting to engage with the clubs. All of the teams, associations we work with are producing fantastic content, and we'll see some of that shortly, and promoting it on social media. But that two-way engagement maybe is an area that's lacking at the moment, how they genuinely kind of feel connected and can speak with the club. And I think that's hopefully what we're starting to unlock for teams. So fantastic. Well, thanks for that, Ollie. I'm sure we'll come back shortly for some more questions. But on to you, Tim, if we may. So you, I said at the start, you've got a unique story to tell. I'm not aware if there is another team that do all of their tech in-house, and it sounds an incredible challenge. But are you able to just explain more around why Eintracht Frankfurt created Eintracht Tech, and what it's giving you in terms of, from a fan's perspective, in terms of an advantage?
Yeah. So good morning, everyone. We started all of our activities basically in 2017 when we had a look at our competitive situation, and we found ourselves in a position in Germany where we are competing with clubs that have external investors. We are competing with clubs that play Champions League every year. So that means that we have a significant financial disadvantage as Eintracht Frankfurt in 2017. So we thought for ourselves, how can we change that? Because, I mean, if you would like to compete on the pitch, you obviously have to compete on the financial side as well. And we went on our journey to follow our vision to become Germany's most innovative and most digital sports club. Out of that, we founded 2 years later Eintracht Tech, which is a 100% club-owned subsidiary. We are working on different digital business models, basically exploring new revenue streams for the club. And our starting point was, and our philosophy is, that we as Eintracht Frankfurt want to own every club-owned digital touch point of a fan with Eintracht Frankfurt. That means, obviously, we're not creating like our own social media channels. We don't want to create the next Instagram or Facebook or something like that. But every time when a fan interacts with Eintracht Frankfurt directly, it's running through our systems. Meaning, we as Eintracht Frankfurt and Eintracht Tech, we developed our own fan app by ourselves. So we have own software developers within Eintracht Tech. We developed our own ticketing solution. We developed our own e-commerce marketplace. We developed our own analytical tools because we have seen what's out there on the market is not like perfectly fitting to our vision. It's not customized. If you would like to customize it, it's getting very expensive. So we thought to ourselves, okay, let's do it by ourselves. So at one point in time, in 2019 it was, we had 45 software developers. We still have 13 working every day for us, developing new solutions. So that means if you as a fan watch Eintracht Frankfurt content in our app, on our website, it runs through our system. We go mobile first, clearly. If you buy a ticket, you buy it via an Eintracht Tech and Eintracht Frankfurt system. If you buy a fan jersey or a scarf, it's done by Eintracht Frankfurt and Eintracht Tech. So that obviously gives us a lot of data because we're not selling tickets on like the Ticketmasters, Eventums of the world. We are not selling merchandise on external platforms. That means we really getting a real good view on the fan. What is he or she really doing with Eintracht Frankfurt? What kind of content he or she is interested in, and what products are they buying? So far so good. But we realized and this is very comparable to like even the bigger clubs, Paris and Arsenal. All of us are like by far the most emotional brands within our area. And we said, okay, let's use that for our advantage. If we as Eintracht Frankfurt are one of the 4 to 5 apps that every fan is using every day, why don't we use that and integrate other products and services? So we became a little marketplace. Meaning, like a small little Amazon, we connect now our former sponsors. Now we are their, let's say, external marketplace, a new emotional marketplace. And we are selling now energy tariffs via our app. We are selling now for our insurance partner, we are selling now insurances. We fully integrated our public transportation in Frankfurt. So when you buy a ticket for an Eintracht match with 2 clicks in our app, you get your train ticket. And like one step was, together with MasterCard and Deutsche Bank, we created our own Apple Pay and Google Pay solution. So for example, if I pay now here in Sevilla in a bar for a nice beer and tapas, it's running through our systems. So we really understand what, for example, our fans are buying, even on their holidays. So this gives us a really interesting data perspective, and this was the business side. I mean, obviously, where's the money behind that? If we sell an insurance, obviously we benefit from that and get a provision. But where's the benefit for the fan? The data that we have now allows us to really really handle every fan differently. What does that mean? For example, if you download the Eintracht app, I assume you're not a member of Eintracht Frankfurt.
Shall I be honest? No, I'm not.
Yeah, so you see different content than I do. I'm obviously a member of Eintracht Frankfurt. I see different prices for merchandise products because we give our members 10% discount. If we are selling tickets for our match against, for example, Aberdeen tomorrow, which we are playing in the Conference League, I see the ticket sale earlier than you do because I'm a season ticket holder. So we are showing our fans different content because we know what kind of content they are interested in. So this is more or less what we are doing. Has a lot of benefits on the business side, but also from a fan perspective because we treat everyone how he should or she should be treated.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I mean, you've mentioned a lot about football there, but I think I'm right in saying that your stadium is number two, in Europe, behind Wembley in terms of large gigs and concerts. So you've got 2 NFL matches that are going to be taking place at your stadium this season as well. Are you able to share a little bit more about how technology, the data that you're tracking, helps with the overarching kind of business then, not just within the football context?
Yeah. So like, as you said, like our stadium hosts like concerts for Beyoncé, Guns N' Roses, Harry Styles, The Weeknd, like all of them this summer. For example, if we sell tickets for these concerts, I mean, not for all of them, right? Because sometimes there are exclusive contracts with Live Nation and some other big concert companies. But for some of the concerts we do. And for example, we sold the VIP tickets for the NFL games in Frankfurt that we had this November. And obviously, since this is all our ticketing system, we again get a total new subset of people registering at the Eintracht Tech system, or the Eintracht Tech ticketing solution, and brings us new data from people that are not interested in Eintracht Frankfurt, perhaps, because they come from Munich, they come from London, even from the US for the NFL. And this increases our database even more. And for example, for the NFL, we know that these guys and girls won't download the Eintracht app. So what we did was we created a new brand. We call it Touchdown Frankfurt. So there's no website, which is called Touchdown Frankfurt. It bundles all of the information surrounding the NFL Frankfurt games. And people register there. I mean, they registered at Eintracht Tech, but I don't even notice that. I mean, obviously, it's written somewhere down. But this increases our database even more and brings us in contact with people that are not necessarily Eintracht fans.
Well, that was going to be my next question, actually. So there must be a whole world of data there that's at your fingertips. So how are you looking to kind of unlock that data to bring in, I know the women's game is a huge focus for you guys, but also how you utilising that data to unlock a more diverse set of fans who may traditionally have felt excluded from the game. Can you share a bit more about the tactics behind that and the value that's bringing?
Yeah, so I mean, women's football is a very important strategic topic for us. We are now number 3 in Germany behind Wolfsburg and Bayern. I mean, the Premier League is doing an amazing job with women's football. Like the attendance in Germany is not yet that big, like in England, for example, for normal league matches. So from a data perspective, what are we doing is, I mean, we know, for example, which families are going to concerts in our stadium. We know who's going to some other events like monster truck races that we have in our stadium or some other big festivals that we have and host. And we know, because we did some research, who is interested in the matches of our women's team. Obviously, we know there are some hardcore supporters. They like to go also to our women's team. But we realized that it's also a little bit more like eventees, right? So families, it's a very diverse audience that we have in our women's matches. So we see, okay, this typical guy or girl who comes to a female soccer match is also one that might go to a Harry Styles concert, for example, or to The Weeknd or whatever. So what we did was, with our data analytics, we had a look at all of our different thousands of people in our database that who might be interested in going to a soccer match that we had in our stadium. And by the end of the day, contacted them directly, not like with a mass email approach. So we changed every time the messages a little bit, so based on what we know about the fan, what might be the click that brings him or her to the stadium. Yeah. And for example, by doing that, we brought to our match of the women's team against Bayern Munich 25,000 people in our stadium. Wow. So it really helps to understand what he or she is interested in, and then use that for your advantage to bring, for example, people to our women's team or also to some other sports that we are doing in Eintracht Frankfurt.
Fantastic. It does make you wonder why more teams aren't following your approach, but I'm sure...
It takes a lot of time and work. I mean, we worked on that tech solution stuff since 2017, right? So we don't have the big revenue streams. We are not that big in the United States like PSG or Arsenal. So we had a pain point. We had to change something, and this was like the starting point to do that.
Quick question then on the tech. How are you protecting around being kind of leapfrogged? So if you're building everything in-house, does that, I guess it does, kind of present challenges around the latest tech and the latest apps and APIs? How do you prevent that kind of...
It's a very good question. I mean, obviously we hold the IP for everything that we build, so the next step is to offer that as a white label solution to other clubs, and that is one thing. Okay. If we would stop now, we would definitely lose our competitive advantage to some other German clubs, for example, but we don't. I mean, we have 13 developers, and every day we are improving the systems, bringing new add-ons in, new features. I mean, there are big tech companies out there, they have a lot more people than we have, but we develop that for a football team, and that's a big difference. Like the Microsoft Oracles of the world, they develop for any kind of industries, and we develop everything specified for a football team, and this is the advantage, that we are a little bit more agile.
Makes a lot of sense. Okay, well, so we've heard from the kind of big business reasons behind the importance of international fan growth. We've heard from Tim in terms of the tech. Nadia, I'd like to turn to you, if I may, around the experiences and building a brand. So we're going to be speaking about a number of key pillars of PSG and how you've built the brand, how you've leveraged the values of Paris and you've taken that internationally, and how they speak to new generations. Before we do, I'd like to play a quick video that I'm sure will wow the audience in terms of some of the work that you've been doing, but it'd be great to hear from you after.
We were created differently. We are young and ambitious. We are unique. Our heart beats to the rhythm of this city, but our dreams don't stop at its borders. We love the game, always have. We're not afraid to confront the status quo and forge our own path. We proudly wear our inspiration and our beliefs. Our heritage shapes our future. Football is only part of our story. We are trendsetters, forward thinkers, and we care about our community. We want to make a difference. We set the bar high to inspire the new generation, and nothing will stop us. They talk, we walk. Ici c'est Paris.
Very, very cool stuff. So are you able to talk us through those key pillars then that make the PSG brand and how you're utilizing those pillars, I guess?
Yeah, thank you for this very positive introduction. So brand pillars, when we talk about brand pillars, we need to answer a few questions like who we are, what is our identity, who is our target, and what are our values. And starting from this, we have two main pillars. We are the club of Paris, obviously, and we are the club of the new generation. So the club of Paris was the natural choice when we decided to rethink the brand positioning 12 years ago, because we have this unique field of play, the city of Paris, our own cities. We are lucky with this because all the club cannot do that, to have a city with so many international values like city of love, city of fashion, city of culture, city of revolution, of diversity. And that was where we created that uniqueness back 10 years ago, and it was very different from other clubs because we decided to connect with other cultures beyond sports, beyond football. So we managed to have partnership with fashion brands, with a lot of designers, music brands, partnering with Rolling Stone, Prince, The Weeknd, and even creating our own music album to raise the local Parisian youth. Movies, partnering with Justice League, Spider-Man, the Minions, esports to target new audiences in new territories and cultivate this modern DNA. And art, of course. We had a lot of projects with artists to produce game posters or different kind of exhibition and experiences. And all those projects were made to spread PSG brand beyond soccer, diversify our audiences, and of course, obviously, generate new revenues. Because at the end of the day, this uniqueness is what made us appealing for sponsors and for brands. We all know here that sponsorship now is not only about visibility, it's about storytelling. And if you add this unique brand positioning with the value and the audience of the players and on the key players, then you have a product that is super appealing for sponsors. So that was the first main key pillar. We are Paris. Second one is that we are the club of the new generation. And there is two ways to read this. We are a new generation of club because we are young. We are far from having the history of Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Manchester, so we don't have the same trophy room. And before, it was seen as a weakness, but we really want to twist it as a strength. Okay, we assume we are young, we are different, we can be more innovative, creative, create new trends instead of following it, and just assume a kind of non-conformism. That was clearly one of the positioning that you have seen in the video. And then, so we are a club of the new generation that want to talk to the new generation of fans. So we all want to target millennials and Gen Z. So we made a lot of study to learn more about their expectations. And without denying our key values, performance, excellence, respect, we add some layers that are key for the new generation of fans, which is commitment. And that's a bit new, so for 1 year we are working a lot on what are those expectations. Care about the other, care about the planet, care about your environment, being respectful and humble, but at the same time very ambitious. And that's a new layer in our brand strategy. We have decided to put the foundation. We have a foundation that exists for years, supporting thousands of people. So now the foundation is at the heart of the brand strategy. And it's important not to do only greenwashing and really to have all those topics at the heart of each project that we will build in the future, because that's the expectation of fans. So this brings us to three main values. Excellence. In every move we make, we need to target excellence on and off the field. Innovation, because we need to stay modern, innovative club. And empowerment, which is the key, because now fans just not want to be only followers, but actors of the club's project. So it can sound simple, it's basic marketing, but the key is the execution and the quality that you will manage to target in derived product, relationship with fan, collaboration, and targeting like premium and keeping this lifestyle DNA in every move that we will make. So I think we have done a great job in the past. Like the brand value came from 70 million to 4 billion. So wow. Now it's important to keep that pace and to always manage to stay very creative in the future.
Fantastic. So you've spoken a lot about the philosophy, the brand, and the pillars. So I think it was Joseph Pine, James Gilmore coined this phrase, the experience economy, in the late 90s, but I believe. And I think football may be at the forefront of this, where the basic premise is that it's the next step on from the service economy, where consumers of all kinds are no longer just wanting to accept kind of product discount codes or giveaways. They want to feel a genuine connection with the brand. And I guess, no, I don't guess, my opinion is that sports will be at the forefront. I don't think we can think of a more passionate consumer than a football fan. So what are you doing then to kind of unlock these experiences? If those are the values, how are you then putting that into action? And you started to touch upon it there in terms of measurable outcomes for the club as well commercially. So are you able to share about a little bit more about the tactics and those experiences?
Yeah, of course. So there is a lot of ways to engage your fan, both on digital and the physical part. So of course digital with social media and all the future technology like metaverse and Web3 and NFT. And then you can combine it with a lot of physical assets. At PSG we have all over the world PSG soccer schools. Like in a soccer school you have a kid that will play under your color from 7 to 12 and he will be a fan for life, for sure. Shops, summer tour, winter tour, esports team. So we have managed to develop a lot of assets to get physical contact points in a lot of areas, and then it's part of the international strategy. So you choose a country, let's say Japan. What is the best asset to activate Japan? So Japan is a fashion culture. So let's go to collab with Japanese fashion designer and artists, and then let's go with an esports team in Japan. It will help us to target new audiences. And then let's translate our social media in Japanese and create dedicated content for them to increase the audience. And then the next year we will go there with a summer tour and 3 friendly games. And then after this summer tour, I will open an academy as a heritage to keep the contact with local youth. And then you can use both digital and physical assets to really create a new relationship with this specific territory. And then you can have the same philosophy to the US market and tomorrow for Indian market, 1 billion people there. And then that's how we manage to engage fans differently, maybe from other teams. And the best proof is that thanks to all this diversification strategy, we have managed to, you can see PSG products everywhere on the street in a lot of countries, and it's not only football fans, it's streetwear addicts, fashion addicts, and because making a cool brand helps you to generate revenues, to sponsor, to merchandising, because you are a bit different from other teams.
I mean, the work that's gone in to achieve that is unbelievable, because it is so many tiny actions that the club has taken to build that brand reputation that then creates that commercial value. Like, shouldn't be underestimated, the time and all of the small things that develop that brand and that reputation and curate that over time. It's quite an achievement.
It's really step by step and different strategy in different countries to be a global brand at the end, because the aim at PSG is to be a very good football club, but also a reference for global sports brand beyond soccer.
Absolutely. And in the context of kind of club valuation, I guess that's ultimately what all of this builds to. So are you all of you able to share a little bit more about how digital engagement, fan engagement boosts the opportunity for your partners, for your sponsors? That obviously gives you more investment that you can then put in onto the pitch, as you've mentioned before. But yeah, how does kind of your building your brand digitally positively impact your partners and sponsorship and create new revenue streams for your club? Maybe Ollie, if we can start with yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long-term reputation build process, and you know, football clubs as organisations that address and really talk to their communities. There are so many elements that go into the creation of that strong relationship, and a strong relationship which eventually, you know, turns into a transactional relationship with the club. But that starts, you know, quite often on the field with our performance and staff players, the nature of the squad, but also the way in which that squad and that organizations behaves, what they stand for, how they communicate, the tone of how they communicate and what they stand for, and how that relates to the wider community, whether that is in fashion, whether that is in music, whether that is in wider culture. So that all creates a level of brand reputation that can really engage in communities and audiences in a meaningful and an interesting way. What that does is generate loyalty. And that loyalty is what our partners are really looking towards, because what partners want from across, the Arsenal community is a sense of endorsement and a sense of buy-in that comes from knowing that the association with the club and the communication aspects with the club is done in a very authentic and natural way, and that creates loyalty, and loyalty leads to purchase, and that creates the commercial value. So I'm interested in Nadia on this point. But
yeah, that's the same thing, because as you said before, we know that 95% of our fans are abroad, and some of them will never come to Paris. So it's the way how do you answer their needs and their expectation, even if they are far. And
we might be able to help with that, by the way. We might be able to help with that.
So, yeah, and the thing is that, of course, it's less easy to attract new fans when you have Messi, Neymar, and Mbappé in your team, because they have their own crazy audiences. But the more the brand will be powerful and the experience will be good, the less you are dependent on them, and that's it. So Messi and Neymar left this summer, but we still have the stadium full. We still have sponsors that want to partner with us, because the key is as I said before, is the storytelling. And when you have built this international strategy, when you will meet, let's take the example of the Japanese territory, when you will meet the Japanese brand to have a local sponsorship, you have something to sell and something to tell them, because you have this local audience ready to be there. So yeah, that's the key point. Brand awareness, brand notoriety, massive audiences is automatically generating new revenue through ticketing, sponsorship, and because the team is appealing.
In our case, it really helps us a lot that we are now perceived as a very digital and very innovative club in Germany, and it opens doors for new partners. Like, for example, we started to work on, as I mentioned, like our own Apple Pay and Google Pay solution together with Deutsche Bank, and we developed it, our developers, together with the software developers of Deutsche Bank, which is like the biggest German bank. We did that, and it worked, and it opened doors for us at Deutsche Bank, because Deutsche Bank at this point in time, they never did football sponsorships, because they had the perception of a bank has to sponsor golf or sailing and all that stuff. But then they said, okay, well, this is a nice proof of concept that we are not only a bank, we are also like a very innovative bank. And together with Eintracht Frankfurt, we developed that. And now Deutsche Bank is the biggest sponsor of Eintracht Frankfurt. They hold the naming right for our stadium. So this is one good example. Another good example how data and technology helps us to find new partners is, as I mentioned, we have a lot of data. For example, out of that payment system, I pay here in Sevilla, I pay in Frankfurt in my local supermarket. We approached a new supermarket chain in Germany to become our sponsor, and we showed them the data. So which percentage of our fans buys in their biggest rival supermarket. And for example, if I go now to the, let's call it, wrong supermarket, like 2 days later, we can target this fan and say, well, if you go the next time to our partner supermarket, you get a discount of €5. And obviously that is very appealing for some brands to get in contact.
I bet. What an incredible story that is. They've been told that by the football club. And yeah, incredible. Well, I know we've got a few minutes left, so I don't know if we wanted to take any questions from the audience or how that might be facilitated. But yeah, if there is anyone that wants to ask a question or two for the panel. Blinded by the lights.
See it.
Yeah, very good question. The protection of the data is very important, and if I understood correctly, yes, the penalties are very high if you are doing some stupid stuff with the data. So we are 100% obviously GDPR compliant. So we ask, for example, let's stick to that example with the payment solution. When our fans register for that payment solution, we ask them, are we allowed to use the data, for example? For 80%, we get the consent. Why? Because it doesn't matter if it's Eintracht Frankfurt, Arsenal, or PSG. Fans want to get contacted. They want to participate in lotteries, for example, and therefore they give you the consent to use consent to use the data, and this is very important. We also created a data council consisting of our fans, of our ultras, of our club members, that twice a year we show what we're doing with the data, because we are 100% transparent and we don't want to have like banners in our stadium saying we are misusing the data. So transparency is very important.
Yeah, I mean, there's a level of sort of self-policing within football club communities as well, whereby if you were misusing the data that you had, like very quickly, your audience lets you know. I think predominantly football clubs are the type of organizations that actually, people want to hear from, and they want to receive offers from and information from. So we shouldn't be shy as organizations from seeking that out.
I'm getting a nod from the side, so we may just have to wrap things up. But thank you so much, everybody. Hopefully there's some real value there, and hopefully the audience enjoyed it. We do have something pretty special to offer you all today. So if you did want to find out more about how Jugo can help your team, your brand or association, we'll put a quick QR code up on the screen now, but there's some bespoke environments that you caught a glimpse of there. So we'll create a fantastic kind of virtual digital home for your team, your brand, where you can engage with your teams. And for the first 10 people that kind of sign up for the QR code, we're happy to build one and custom build one for you. So I'll finish with this. That just gives you a bit of a taster for what we've done. So there's the QR code. And yeah, happy to speak with anyone. We have a booth, but enjoy the rest of the week. Promises to be a fantastic event. So thank you very much for listening.